Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us about your relationship and how it started.
Well, I was with my partner for 3 years, almost 3 years. We met while I was at work, and he was a perfect guy. He was Prince Charming. He was always there when I needed him, and he was just genuinely a sweet guy. But then after a year, things started to change. He started to be a bit more aggressive and hostile. We would start to argue a lot more because he was getting very jealous, and things that didn't used to be a problem before started to be a problem. And the simplest things we would argue about, and he would snap, and I thought, who is this guy? I don't know this person. But then eventually it got worse and worse and worse. It first started with an argument, and he shoved me. And then the second argument, he boxed me across my face. So, and then it progressed, and he started to physically hit me, punches, and we would have fights. And I knew it was something that I needed to get out of, but I loved him. I really did love him. It was the first serious relationship that I had where I was committed, and I was really in love. The first time I've been in love. And I found it hard to just walk away, because when you're in love with someone, it's not that easy. People would say, oh, why you don't just leave him, or why you stay with him. But when you invest your time, your energy, and your love into someone, it's hard to get up and say, forget it, and move on. Especially because I knew him as my Prince Charming, the person that I fell in love with, and I thought that he was still in there somewhere, and maybe he would come back, And I think another reason why I stayed in the relationship, I didn't have an outlet. I didn't tell anybody what was going on. I kept it to myself for many reasons, for several reasons. And I thought I could make it work. I thought I could make him love me enough, as much as I love him, and want to be a different person, and want to not hit me anymore. And I also thought at some point, oh, maybe it's my fault why he hit me. Because he would say, oh, I love you, that's why I hit you, and if I didn't care about you, I would get mad. So all those things kind of kept me in that relationship, and it got to a point where progressively it got from bad to worse. And I remember an incident where we were having an argument, and he was so mad at me for not doing what he said I should have done, and we started fighting. And I remember he was hitting me so hard I fell on the floor. And I fell on the floor, I was naked because I had just come to the show. We ended up outside on the veranda in the middle of the night, fighting. And I know the neighbors heard, but I couldn't get him to stop because he was so angry. And I held up my hand. I fell on the floor, and he took up a flower pot, a big clay flower pot, and was going to drop it on me because I was laying on the floor. And I said, no, don't do it. And I put up my hand to block it. And he dropped the flower pot right aiming for my head, and I held up my hand, and the flower pot dropped and broke my hand. And at that point, I knew I had to do something, because it was either me or him. I know eventually would have probably done something that maybe I wouldn't be here today telling my story.
What are some of the warning signs you would advise other women to look out for, having survived this?
Definitely look at the way he speaks to and about females. The terms he uses, if he's being derogatory, calling them bitch and gal and whore and all those kind of negativity towards females. Because a man who respects a female enough to never hit her would never even speak about a female like that. And I saw signs like that in the early stage of the relationship. relationship, but I didn't take heed. I'm thinking, all right, I'm probably just having a bad day. I also realized the way he would treat his mom. He would like shout at her or be disrespectful to her. And a guy who respects his mom will respect another female, because there's nobody greater than your mom. You know what I mean? And if you don't have respect for your mother, then you're not going to have respect for me, you're not going to have respect for a girl walking on the street. Also consider the fact that if he's progressively getting worse when it gets to arguing, if he's starting to be physically abusive, even if it's an argument, it doesn't give him the right to behave like that. So don't ever let him say, oh, it's because we're arguing why I said that, or it's because we're fighting why I did that. Those are some of the small signs that you kind of pick up on early on to know something isn't right, or something can be really wrong further down the line.
What were some of the obstacles that prevented you from leaving the relationship?
There are a few things that kept me from walking away. Mainly, in the beginning, it was because of love. I loved him. I didn't want to just get up and walk away on this person that I had invested my time in and had fallen so in love with. Because remember, he was Prince Charming. He was the perfect guy for me. So I didn't want to walk away from that. The second thing was that at times he would be my provider. While going to school back then, he would provide me with lunch money if I needed to go out or do my hair, my nails. He was there. So he was somewhat of my provider, and I thought, okay, walk away from this now. Probably going to be difficult for me to go to school, and I felt like I needed him in some sense of the word. Also, it was hard to walk away because at times he would make you feel as if it's your fault, and you start to question yourself, and you start to have self-doubt, and you think, okay, maybe he's right. Maybe if I did it this way, maybe I need to change. And you think, why leave someone when it's your fault? Because you're made to feel like it's your fault. Abusers are very manipulative. So they'll get into your head, and if you're not headstrong, then, and I would honestly say that was one of my downfalls. I didn't have I was lacking the self-confidence that I needed to know, okay, I'm worth more than being hit, or I'm worth more than being told what to do, or I didn't have that confidence that I needed. I wasn't headstrong, and I stayed because of that, as well as I didn't know who to turn to, because people can say, oh, why never tell somebody? It's easy to say, tell somebody, but it's hard to do, because you have this fear of being judged. You have a fear of being looked at as, oh, an idiot girl there. She look him, she may not make no man with me because she's a fool. No. You kind of consider all these things. Okay, how people judge me? How people look at me? What will people say about me if I go to them and say, oh, my man beating me? All these things play on your mind, and you kind of think, you know what, it's better I don't tell nobody. Because I remember there's times when I would have to go to work and I had a black and blue eye or a fractured nose. And I would tell people all kind of foolishness. Oh, I knock up my head, or I knock up my hand, or I walk in the door, and I make up all kind of excuses because of that fear of not knowing how people will judge me. So I stayed.
When help was sought, what response did you see? What response did you get from family and friends, as well as the legal system?
Well, my family was very understanding and accepting of the fact that I needed help. They were one of my biggest supporters when I did finally tell them. Because, family, the good things that family, oftentimes they'll be there for you when you need them. So in that aspect, my family was dealt with it pretty good and helped me through it. Friends, I only told a selected few, and there are people who I trusted, but disappointingly, I remember I had a friend who, when I told her, she basically called me an idiot. She told me I was stupid. You know, why you with him, man? Why you make the man hit you? And I felt pretty judged by her, but I knew at that time that yes, she was correct because I stayed and I allowed it, but she wasn't correct when she said I was stupid and I was an idiot. You know, so I felt really judged by her. And that was one of the things that I was really fearful of, you know, being judged, and it was happening. But in terms of legal support, I did a few times make reports about being abused. And to my downfall, I dropped some of the charges. I did it twice, you know, because he got into my head, you know, I love you, and that's why I did it, and I'm sorry, and I won't do it again. So I dropped the charges twice. But he did it again, you know, because they're just going to always tell you what you want to hear. And, however, when I finally made up my mind that I was ready to leave, I filed charges. The last time he hit me, I filed charges, and I decided to get a restraining order. I got a restraining order. It's a tedious process here in Jamaica, but it can be done. You basically have to just make up your mind that you're going to stick with it. And you'll get it. The process is you basically make a report. It would help if you've had previous reports made prior to that incident where you ask for a restraining order. You'll get a court date done by family court. Because a lot of people don't know that you actually have to go to family court for a restraining order. People think, oh, you just go to the police station. But you have to go to family court and request a court date. The court date is sometimes a month or more away, and I think that's where it's lacking, where if I'm fearful for my life, then I need some security right now, you know, because I fear. But the process takes about a month to 2 months. It could be longer, probably shorter, but most times it's within that time frame. So you just have to make up your mind that yes, this is something that you want, and try to keep yourself safe until then. But there's a lot that can be done with the legal system when it comes to domestic violence. I think police and society has gotten so used to, you know, a man hitting a woman where there's no urgency placed on it. Because I remember when I just broke up with him, when I finally walked away, and as in the process of getting my restraining order, he started to stalk me. He would come to my house late in the night, come to my bedroom window with a gun and a flashlight, just checking if I'm in there, and watching me while I'm sleeping. And I was very fearful, and I got up one night and I saw him, and I called the police. And the police station is probably like 5 minutes from where I live. And this was probably like 2 years ago, and the police still didn't come. Up to today, the police still didn't come, you know, so it's kind of like, where do you turn and who do you turn to? But the good thing is that eventually I did get my restraining order because I stuck with it. But even with that, it didn't seem to scare him, because after getting my restraining order, which he knew he had because he had to be present at court, I was out one night and he saw me. And he came over and started talking to me, like, why am I not answering his calls? I'm like, listen, you're not supposed to be talking to me because we have a restraining order, you need to stay away from me. And he came up to me and he had a drink in his hand and was like, hey, girl, who you disrespect? I'm afraid of a restraining order, and he took the drink and threw it all over me in the party. And I don't physically have the strength to fight it back, so I was like, okay, could I have a restraining order? You go get locked up. So I went to the police station up the street, and I told them, and they tell me that I would have to go to the police station where him live, because they couldn't do anything about it, because he doesn't live in the area that the incident happened. And I'm thinking to myself, what's the purpose of having this restraining order if I still gonna have to be going up and down trying to seek help? This is a legal document saying that I should be protected from this person. And now you're telling me, oh, go where I live? That's not where it happened. It happened just now, 5 minutes ago, up the street. So you know what? I decided, all right, fine. That's your system, and I'll follow it. And I went to the area that he lived in, and I told the police, And they said, okay, they're going to look into it. And I should just go home. So I trusted, I trusted in what they're saying, and I said, okay, fine, I'll go home. And I went home, and the next day I still didn't hear from them, and I called them back, and I said, I came in last night and I made a report. Oh, yeah. The policeman answered the phone and said, oh, yeah, we went to the house and he wasn't there, so we'll check back, man, we'll check back. And this is 2 years ago. And he wasn't locked up. According to them, they didn't see him. And it's very heartbreaking to know that when it comes to the legal system, you don't know where to go. You're left to find a bad man, to shoot him up, or to scare him a little bit, or to take matters into your own hands, and that's sad because we don't have anybody to protect us, and that's why so many females end up dying, because even in seeking help, you're still helpless. It's all for the prettiness of it, but behind it all, behind having a restraining order, it don't really. I wouldn't say it really helps.
What are some defense mechanisms and techniques you would suggest for women who are in positions that they cannot readily come out of, or situations that were not anticipated?
I remember there's a lot of times I was in that position where he got upset and we started fighting, and I wasn't able to run away, or I'm obviously not strong enough physically to defend myself against him, or I'm nowhere near an object, to pull a knife or to pull a piece of board to hit him or something. And the first thing I would always do is to cover my head and my face, and because most of the times that's what they'll aim for. Because I remember there's times when he's hitting me and all he's stuck in saying, I'll make you ugly, I'm going to make you ugly, so nobody don't want you, because if you don't want me, I don't want you with nobody else. And he would aim for my face and my head, because those are obviously the two main areas where can cause the most damage, so I would always get in the fetal position and just roll up into a ball in a corner or something and try to cover my head. And that's how it saved my life, because when he dropped the clay pot on me, he was dropping it into my head. And I did the same thing. I got in a fetus position, put my hands over my head, and that's how my arm got broken. Always try to find a way out, but if you can't find a way out, try to protect yourself as best as you can. Get into a corner where it's difficult for him to get to you. If he's strong and he'll pull you out of the corner, just keep your head covered and your face down. It's the best thing you can do until you get some help or until you can break away.
Why have you decided to speak out against domestic violence? Share your story with others.
I decided that I was going to make my tragic story something that can help someone else. So many females have gone through the same thing that I went through, and they're not here to tell about it. Sadly, it happens too many times. There has to be a voice to it. Somebody has to say to you, I know what you're going through, I've been there, and I'm able to sit here today and help another female. A lot of times it's easier said than done, and people don't understand what we go through. They don't know because they're not walking in our shoes. So when a female has gone through it and is able to come and say to you, listen, I know what you're going through, I've been there, I understand. It's easier said than done, but it can be done. It helps a lot. Because you want somebody to understand you, and nobody will understand unless they've done it, unless they've gone through it. And that was my problem, finding somebody that could understand really and truly how I feel. I couldn't find that, and that's why I was so scared to tell anybody, because I don't know nobody that was in that situation, that was openly honest about being in that situation, that I could sit down with and say, you know what, I need your advice or I need your help. What do I do? How do I do it? And that's why I choose to do this now. I choose to help other females who don't know where to turn, who don't know what to do, give them a beam of hope that it can be done. You can get out of it. No matter how terrible you feel the situation is, no matter how much you have invested in this person, kids, money, house, car, love, you can get past it. Love doesn't hurt. You know, you should never have to think, if he loved me, why he hit me? Don't ever think that, because if he really loves you, he would never want to sit here on your head hurt you. So I think me being in a situation, me going through this, who else you can get advice from other than somebody who's been through it? Yeah, you can go to a counselor and then can tell you the theologically correct way to deal with it, but she hasn't walked in issues. You know, who feels it knows. And that's why I do what I do now. That's why I go around and I talk about my experiences and I try to see who else I can help. Because I needed the help and I didn't know who to turn to.
How do you think our culture and society contribute to the growth and sustenance of domestic violence?
There's a lot of ways that society contributes to that, because it's a norm here in Jamaica. Sometimes you see how people handle domestic violence. You can't believe that's okay. You know, like if a man over there saw beating a woman, oh, Master, I beat Mary today. A regular she get beaten. Nobody calls the police. Nobody gets up and goes over there and say, Master, put on your hands, stop hit her. Because we've become so accepting of this is how men discipline women. You know, if she does wrong, this is how she's punished. And it all stems from the mentality of the people. You know, like, oh, if a woman respect you have to back on her and she can't talk to big man so, and, you know, kick down a girl if she bun me, you know, that kind of stuff. No, but people don't stand up against domestic violence because they're not looked upon for it. If a man beats a woman and he goes out the next day to a party, nobody calls him an abuser. Nobody says, oh, don't come in my place because you're like woman. But if the woman that is being beaten on goes out the next day, hey, watch out, leave that girl there, man just beat her up. Watch out, girl there. No, sir, you get kicking on. So the females are left to feel as if, oh, it's your fault, or you deserve it, or you're idiot. But the man goes out the next day and nobody says anything. Him still having friends and him still having job. I think just like in the States where if a lot of it has been going on now where a man hits a woman, he gets detached from all his sponsors, he loses his job, he doesn't, all the things that he has going on now, it gets cut off from the root. So society is left to now starting to judge him. Yes, that's wrong. But here, nothing happens. Nothing is done. He moves on and continues to live his life like normal. When the woman is left to suffer, maybe left with marks, scarred for life, always remembering what happened. And he can move on the next day and everything's okay. It has to start from society, the legal system, government. Everybody has to put their foot down and say, listen, we're not going to condone this. If you're a womanizer, if you're an abuser, we know why you work with we. We know why your face represents us. We know why you come around with we. People have to put down their foot, and then eventually the mindset will start to change because we'll realize this is not okay. Because I'm going to lose my job, or I'm not going to be able to par with a career no more because, you know, we don't do that.
For women who are in the situation, earlier you spoke about self-defense mechanism. So, for women who are in the situation and find it difficult to leave what strategies and suggestion would you advise to them in getting themselves out?
My motto is always play smart, and not brave. Play smart and not brave. Because if you, all this time, if you were physically able to beat him back up or overpower him, you'd have done that a long time, and it'll probably show him, say, listen, you're a force to be reckoned with. But physically, a lot of women aren't able to fight back because we don't have the strength, or we're not as strong as the males. So you have to start using something else that's stronger than the males. Your brain, use your head. You know him better than anybody else because this is a person that you've been with for years, however long. You know him. So you start to plan your escape. Start to use your brain and analyze, okay, how am I going to leave? When am I going to leave? If you have kids, think about, okay, I need to have the kids spend the night or the weekend by my friend's house. Most of the times, choose someone. If you're going to leave, you're going to go to a safe house, make sure it's not someone that he knows or not somewhere that he knows you're going to go. Don't go to your mommy house because you know that's where you're probably going to go. Don't go to your best friend house, especially when he knows these people. Find a safe haven where he has no idea who this person is or where you could possibly be. And think, okay, I need to send my kids there. So while this is happening, they're not caught in the middle. Eventually, if you're sharing a house with him or if you're staying with him, eventually start to pack a little bag, small stuff, keep it over by a safe house. So that when it's time to leave, him don't see you packing up all this stuff because he's going to stop you. He's going to realize, oh, no, she find our strength. I don't have mind control over her anymore, and that's when he will flip. That's when he will probably even try to take your life because he now knows that you are moving on. So play smart, plan your escape. When he's not at work, you probably start to put your two little things together and you make your plans, where you're going to go, what you're going to do. Don't change. If you have always been this nice, quiet person, stay a nice, quiet person. Because when you see you start getting your strength now and you say, yes, we soon left you, I'm done with you, that's when he's going to start taking notice. He's going to start watching you a little bit more because he realize, oh yeah, tough chat now. You must either find you man or you're ready for left me. So remain your usual self. Don't raise any suspicion. And leave at a time when he's not around, where you will have enough time to leave and not have to be. Don't leave when you know him soon come home from work. And when you're leaving out, you're pulling up into the driveway. Because walking into that is going to make him so angry, he's probably going to lose it. And a lot of the times when in domestic cases where men kill the female, it's in a situation where the female is leaving, where she's walking away, and he's so threatened by that, he would rather kill her. Because I remember there was a time when I said I was going to leave, and I was packing my stuff to leave, and he pulled a gun on me, and he pushed it in my side, and he said, if you leave, I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to kill myself. And just the fear of him killing me, I put my stuff down. And I know I couldn't leave again when he was there. If I'm going to leave, I had to do it when he was out or at work, or I know he's probably not going to come back until later on the night. And leave then. Because there's always a possibility of something can go wrong. So don't let him know. But once you've made up your mind that you're ready to walk away, be smart about it. Don't get all superwoman and say, yes, I'm going to stab him with a knife if you come near me. No, just avoid it as much as you can because things can escalate pretty quick. So prevention is better than cure.
Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me.